Hi, this is Positional, and here is a game that I played at letsplaychess.com. It's a correspondence chess game. I was playing white here, and this game finished just about 2 days ago, and it's a short game, only 19 moves. And this is the Nimzo-Indian defense, bishop to b4, and I played here my favorite move, f3, in this against the Nimzo-Indian. I continue with d5, now a3, forcing the bishop on b4 to make a decision. Does he want to take on c3? That's what most people do, but in this case my opponent replied bishop to e7, and that's well, it is theory, it is a well-known variation, but it's very passive, because normally people take on c3 to give white a double pawn on the c file, but apparently my opponent didn't want to play without the bishop's pair, so he played bishop to e7. I continued with the e4, he took on e4, I took with the f pawn, so I had achieved my first goal, and that's to have this strong center here. And black decided to attack the center immediately. Now there are two ways to attack this center. One is to play e5 and one is to play c5, and he chose to play e5. Now I didn't want to take here on e5 because I think it's better for black. If he takes then on d1, after king takes d1, comes knight to g4, and he threatens to give a check here and also to regain his sacrificed pawn. And if I take the queen with my knight, then e4 hangs. So that means that I will not win a pawn by taking on e5. So after e5 I played d5, advancing this pawn, and this has a few consequences. One of them is that by moving this pawn to d5 I give away the control of c5. That means that it becomes attractive for black to place his bishop on c5 again, and having influence in this on this diagonal. Another consequence of the move d5 is of course that I control two new squares here, c6 and e6. Now black replied c6. I played knight to f3, developing and attacking the e5 pawn. He castled, and I didn't take on e5 here with my knight. I did think about it, but I thought that it would be a bit risky to give black this half-open e-file, because I was thinking if I take on e5, he will play rook to e8, placing this rook on this half-open e-file, and if I try to castle by playing bishop to e2, well, there could be an exchange here on c5, and then knight takes e4 is possible, because after I take on e4 he has a check on h4, bishop h4 check, and at the same time this rook is attacking this knight on e5, and g3 doesn't work because of rook takes e5 simply, and then the rook is attacking the next piece that's undefended. So I didn't want to do this because it would lead to an open center and my king still standing in the center. So instead of taking on e5 I decided to simply play bishop to d3, preparing to castle, and here my opponent played knight to e8, and I think this is a mistake because this knight is occupying the square where the rook should go. So stronger would have been to play here knight to g4, and the idea of knight to g4 is not only to defend e5 but also to have possibilities of queen to b6 with an attack on this diagonal, combining the queen and the knight. So if castling here, for example, then black gets wins material with queen to b6 check, If I go to h1, then knight to f2 check. I have to take the knight, and I'm the exchange down. So knight to g4 looks good. In that case, by the way, still I have the possibility of doing, for example, b4 and c5 to close this this diagonal. Those kind of ideas. But in the game, anyway, knight to e8 was played. I took now on e5. Bishop to c5, preventing me from castling kingside. I played queen to e2 with the plan of trading these two dark square bishops to be able to castle. Knight to d6, bishop e3, bishop takes e3, queen takes e3, and now he played queen to e7. So attacking my knight on e5, and I move my knight to f3, and now we see that some positional ideas start arising that make it possible for white to think of an attack to a kingside. One of them is the option of advancing this pawn, opening this diagonal towards h7. Another idea is that this knight on f3 can later go to g5, attacking h7 again. And after castling, my rook will be on the f-file, so there is a possibility of having pressure on this f-file, and also maybe an idea of later doing a rook lift, rook to f3 to g3, targeting g7, things like that. So here I had the idea that my position is superior because of all these possible attacking ideas. C takes d5 was played, and now I took with the knight on d5, and so this knight now is joining the attack, and this is just much better for me. Queen to d8 was played. I castled here. Another option would be to play e5 immediately and go for the attack, and I thought about rook to e8 and preventing me from taking on d6 because of the pin. And if I castle queenside now, he could play knight to c6, attacking the e5 pawn again, and I wasn't very sure about this, so later I reviewed it with the help of an engine, and it tells me that this is a good line for white, but I found it just a bit risky and thought if I castle kingside, my king will be safe. He doesn't have his dark square bishop anymore, so this diagonal is not that dangerous, and I'm bringing at the same time my rook into play. He played here bishop to g4, and now I advanced the pawn to e5, opening the diagonal towards h7, and he played knight to f5, and the last move of the game was queen to e4. Here he resigned because he's losing material. If he takes on f3, then I take on f5, attacking h7 and also attacking the bishop, so he will lose here material, and there is no way of defending this bishop. Normally we would say that knight to h6 defends the bishop on g4, but then queen takes h7 gives checkmate. So my opponent resigned here. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm very happy with the how this game developed. It was a nice position for me that was achieved. Alright, I hope you enjoyed it, and leave your comments on YouTube. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.